transpired here at the First Bank Center here in Denver, Colorado. It wasn't just a big night of fights. It was a big night of memorable moments. Conor McGregor with us here in Denver, Colorado. Left hand from Rockhold. Right hand right back from Mike Perry. Can I get a face-off with Conor McGregor, man?
It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here are warriors, and all have my respect. And I'm into this game, yeah. We'll be into this, yeah.
And we arrive here in the Maverick Center here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Folks, what a night. It is going to be historic indeed for BKFC 56. Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight. Perry on the tap. Right hand from Mike Perry. Double jab. Who's the king of violence?
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare knuckle fighting in the city of Angels.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all the way to the top.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We're getting closer and closer to the first college football game of the season. Welcome to the show. We're going to preview a lot of college football today here on the show. We got Bill Bender from Sporting News as football season is fast approaching. In addition, Simon Applebaum of the podcast Tomorrow Will Be Televised will tell us all about the sports media coverage as to what is going on right now in the National Football League, college football, and potentially some changes over at ESPN, too, as far as their hosts are concerned. Guest contributor from Legal Sports Report will dive into that as well as a bunch of other topics here. And what's interesting is a lot of college football teams making announcements about their starting quarterback to open the season. Another one just happened a short time ago, so we will give that to you as well. And speaking of which, it is a groundbreaking day for college football. I don't know if you feel about this in a good way or a bad way. I think traditionalists in a bad way. For the rest of us, you're going to think this is pretty cool. Oklahoma State makes an announcement yesterday, and they don't need to make an announcement because they have a QR code to do it. QR code speaks for itself for the Cowboys. For the first time ever in college football, you're going to see a QR code on the helmet of players on Oklahoma State. You're going to see this coming season for Oklahoma State. Yes, it is going to basically be on the helmet so you can scan it and donate to the NIL fund of the Cowboys of Oklahoma State this coming season. Kind of crazy, folks. I know we use QR codes in everyday life to buy things, scan things, download apps, and everything else. But here we go. In college football, we've got it as well. People are all upset about this. Oh, you can't have ads on the jersey. I mean, it's a new day and age, folks, of sports. Either get used to it or just get out of it. That's the best way that I could say it. All right, now let's get to the latest of the CBS potential sale here. Control of Paramount is in play. The long-term structure of CBS's sports parent company is in question as a new bid has emerged for the control of Paramount Global. So this is for CBS Sports, of course, Paramount as well. And the new offer is within a 45-day go-shop period that is contained within the Skydance deal that allows Paramount's board of directors to seek alternate bids. It's a $4.3 billion bid to take over the company. And there's also a breakup fee that's involved. Paramount Skydance merger. That's what we're looking at. We'll touch on this more with Simon Applebaum coming up, but it is potentially a groundbreaking deal for CBS Sports and Paramount as well, which means, of course, you'll probably have to download a new app or something like that. You won't need Paramount anymore. You'll need something else. All right, now let's get to on-the-field action here. Jalen Daniels will be under center for Kansas when they open up the season against Lindenwood. That's coming next week. Jayhawks coach Lance Leipold confirmed that the quarterback who is expected to be in the Heisman Trophy conversation is ready to go. If you're not familiar with Daniels, one of the best quarterbacks in college football, but has also been hurt a lot. And he's going to start when they open up next week. It's a circled game in college football, which means you can't bet a lot on it. But needless to say, when you don't play against a Division I opponent, that's what happens. How about the starting quarterback for South Carolina? Shane Beamer makes the announcement. Not Shane Bieber, the pitcher. Shane Beamer, the head coach. He makes the announcement that Lenoris Sellers is going to start for the University of South Carolina. He is the starting quarterback for the Gamecocks as they open up SEC play with a new-look SEC. Talking about a lot of different options that he had that's caught some people by surprise. But Beamer ball is back, and it is Sellers starting for him.
This morning informed Lenoris that he would start next Saturday night or next Saturday afternoon against Old Dominion. Met with them this morning. You know, like I said, both of them were great. I meant what I said to you guys on Saturday, David, after the scrimmage, that I really feel like we have multiple quarterbacks that we can win with. And Robbie really did some good things on Saturday, and he's going to help us win football games this season. Davis Bevel did some good things. Dante Reno came in there and did some nice things on Saturday as well. So we have a lot more depth in that room than what we had last year. But as I told Lenoris and Robbie both when I talked to them this morning, we're continuing to, like every position, the guy that gives us the best chance to be successful is going to be the guy that's out there week in, week out. And that's not to say that we're going to be rotating quarterbacks every 2 plays or anything like that. We're not doing that. But, you know, they've got to continue. Lenoris has got to continue to progress like he has been, and Robbie's got to continue to progress like he has been, and that's only going to make us better.
Yeah, South Carolina needs quarterback help. They're hoping Sellers is their guy for the entire season, but Beamer very clearly named other quarterbacks in play as well. Keep an eye on that game as they face off against Old Dominion as they open up the season. Rutgers, meanwhile, lost a very key contributor to a torn ACL. Mohamed Toure, who led the team in sacks and tackles for losses, is going to miss the 24 season with a torn ACL. He was a team captain. Greg Schiano, the head coach, said he will undergo surgery and miss the season. Meanwhile, Pete Carroll is back, but this time it's college football. He's returning to USC in a teaching role. He'll start teaching classes at USC this spring. There was no specifics there, and I guess he didn't get a gig in the NFL or college football. Carroll, by the way, when he was essentially retiring, let go, whatever you want to say, from Seattle, said that he wanted to continue to keep going. That is not going to be the case. All right, how about sports betting in the National Football League? This is a very slippery slope, which we've been talking about now here for over a year. The NFL has a new suspicious betting activity mandate, a 6-key rule gambling obligation. Never bet on the NFL. Never have someone bet for you on the NFL. Never share inside team information. Never gamble at your team facility. Never enter a sports book. And never play daily fantasy football. So what does this mean? It means that a lot of players can play fantasy football this season. Okay, that's good news. Just can't play daily fantasy football. Meanwhile, CeeDee Lamb still holding out for the Dallas Cowboys. Jamar Chase still holding out for the Cincinnati Bengals, 2 of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Nothing on Chase. We do have an update on Lamb. Jerry Jones said that there have been some promising talks regarding a contract extension, but needless to say, no update beyond that. By the way, a fire has broken out at a guest room at the Dallas Cowboys Hotel. They're playing in Oxnard and training there as they have for many years. Players and coaches were basically asked to leave the hotel, and then everything is fine there. Meanwhile, Brian Flores, the former head coach of the Miami Dolphins, got to give him credit, at the very least, for speaking about this whole Tua Tagovailoa situation. Was asked by the media about it, stood in front of a podium as a defensive coordinator. The Minnesota Vikings said that he is genuinely happy for the success that Tua had. Also talked about some different learning situations. A lot of people just crushing Brian Flores. Got to give him credit for stepping up to the podium. He didn't have to talk about it. He ended up doing it. All right, Major League Baseball yesterday, the Dodgers score 3 runs in the 8th. They beat the Seattle Mariners yet again. Seattle's falling apart. Gilbert, Flaherty, those are the starters tonight in that game. The Guardians beat the Yankees 9-5 in 12 innings. New York now second in the East. Not a great day for Verdugo and LeMahieu and even Gleyber Torres. 0-4-15 combined. The Orioles beat the Mets on a wild play yesterday, like a little league error type play, where they threw the ball home, got past the guys, threw it back to the outfield, got past the guys, threw it ball home, threw it back to third. I see this all the time in Little League. Orioles play the Mets once again today at 1 o'clock Eastern. Also, the Chicago Cubs have released Hector Neris, their relief pitcher that they signed in the offseason. No doubt he'll get picked up by someone. If he's going to play in the postseason, though, that has to happen in the next 10 days. Meanwhile, let's get to some college hoops. John Calipari will make his return to Rupp Arena on February the 1st when Arkansas plays Kentucky. The SEC men's basketball schedule was released on Tuesday. Also, in the WNBA, the Liberty won again, and they're crushing teams. 94-74 yesterday against the Wings. They are 24-4 on the season. Connecticut used a 14-0 run to defeat the LA Sparks, 69-61. They did not cover the spread, and the Mystics have had a rough season, to say the least. They lost to Seattle by a final of 83-77 yesterday. All right, coming up next, week 0 is here in college football, so we got to bring Bill Bender back. It's time for us to dive into a lot of the different issues in the Big 12. We'll see if Bill has some opinions on this new look conference and who could potentially win. Is it Utah the favorite or someone else? We'll have that answer for you next.
These preseason games often just come down to a team will get inside the 5-yard line and they go for it. Like nobody's ever, like in the real world, the Falcons would have kicked the field goal.
And hit this thing right down to the middle. We talked about these games being close, decided, maybe a tie. That's the whole thing. You talked about it, Merrill. These lines are moving like not just 1 or 2 points. Like this is significant stuff.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
We looked borderline unprepared the end of the game. We didn't know how to match up. We didn't know how to switch that at half court. And when Gabby Williams got the ball, hit that long three to funnel her to the basket and keep that is on the staff, but it's also in the fact that we did not think we were in that or going to be in that situation.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Hey, let's say it comes down for Matt Kuchar in the FedEx Cup ball. Let's say he doesn't make a cut, and it comes down to one shot. And
that's a good point.
And he keeps his card for the top 125 because he did make the jump from, I think it was 113 to 103. So he made a 10-spot jump. So he's got, 17, or let's see, that was not good math. He's got about 20.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
It feels like everybody's running to Houston, and that worries me a lot. The expectations for this Texans team, given where they were a couple of years ago, is kind of scary, is it not?
I was at least looking for a number. I think the best one I found was plus 850. And then Super Bowl-wise, I think it was 16-1. I think if they make it, they would probably be the favorites.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I will share a very personal story as we bring in Bill Bender from Sporting News. My daughter, we just took her up to the University of Central Florida. I'm in South Florida. University of Central Florida is in Orlando. And, I'm not thinking, although I did drive right by the stadium, I wanted to show my son. We were looking, at all the signs and everything else. and we saw the signs, and I was looking, and it said University of Central Florida, part of the Big 12. I'm like, what? I'm like, wait a second, is that right? I'm like, is that a mistake? I'm like, that's right, they're in there. So, Bill, as we bring you in, Utah, UCF, like, I mean, this is just going to take time to get used to for everyone. It'll be commonplace in a couple of years, but as we go through every conference, there are just so many new wrinkles that the average college football fan who is not watching this every day is just going to be stunned when the season begins.
And I'm glad you brought it up, because if you look at last year, BYU, UCF, Cincinnati, Houston, first year in the Big 12, they finished 18-31 with an 8-28 conference record. So it's not just us that has to get used to something. I think you got to remember these teams have to get used to each other. You know, Utah hasn't played Kansas State every year, and Oklahoma State hasn't played Arizona every year. So you complicate that with the Big 12 September schedule is loaded. All of these huge games are early on the schedule. So you better get used to it fast, because if you don't play well in September, you could be behind in that conference race.
Yeah, it's just very different that September, you know, they always used to say that a loss in September is not the same as in November. Yeah, you're right, because now if you lose in September, you're pretty much done. Like, I mean, that's the crazy part. You could lose a game early, but not late, but not anymore with these conference games. And so, look, it does make sense that in a conference with no defense, the one that has it is the favorite to win the conference. Utah's always good, Bill, defensively, and they have an incredible home field advantage. And as you said, with teams having to travel to play there, it creates an incredible advantage, and it's why they're the favorites to win the conference. In fact, they're plus 280, which is a huge prohibitive favorite. If you look at all the conference favorites, I mean, they are very much at the top. Kansas State plus 440, OSU and their new QR code is 8-1, and then UCF. Beyond that, I don't see Iowa State or Kansas winning the conference. So it's Utah's to lose, but Bill, I think you just illustrated it. If some team was to go to their place and beat them there, they're not winning. And that's just not an easy thing to swallow if you take them to win the conference.
Yeah, and Utah has to play Oklahoma State on September 21st. The reason a lot of people are picking Utah is, I think, obvious. Kyle Whittingham, stability, interior line, offensive line, always solid. Cam Rising in his 7th year quarterback, and Oklahoma State obviously has a 7th-year quarterback as well. Like, we act like that's normal now. They'll be solid in conference play. That Oklahoma State-Utah game on September 21st, whoever you believe is going to win, take that team. You know, Oklahoma State, you joked about the QR codes. I was actually texting buddies yesterday saying, should I buy a T-shirt and put my Venmo on it? I mean, that's where we live in college football now. But they have an experienced offensive line. They have Ollie Gordon. They have Alan Bowman. They have a lot of tough games in September as well. If you pick the Cowboys, understand that they play South Dakota State, Arkansas, Kansas State, West Virginia, and Utah in the first half of the season. Not a lot of those teams are ranked, but there is a lot of glass in that schedule.
At Bill Bender -1- Venmo. No, I'm just kidding. Don't send the Cash App, by the way. Issues with Cash App lately. Okay, so now the ACC, very different than the Big 12, because I suppose there is this narrative, Bill, from what I'm hearing. Now, look, obviously Florida State's a favorite, but the narrative is that Clemson is going to be back this year. They're plus 360 to win the ACC. I hear the same thing about Miami every year. I'm not buying that. I see them 4-1. I'm just going to pass that up. NC State 6-1, Virginia Tech 10-1, and Louisville 10-1. So, yeah, I mean, I guess, Bill, for me, it's like until the Hurricanes show that they can coach these kids, I cannot buy into the University of Miami. But I can buy a little bit on Dabo and Clemson. Tell me why they're so close to FSU to win the ACC.
Well, one thing to consider, these contenders in the ACC, everybody has a first-year transfer quarterback. A lot of them have played 20 or more games, like Grayson McCall, like Cam Ward, like DJU at Florida State. Clemson does have Cade Klubnik back. Clemson does have a lot of NFL talent on defense. I think Clemson got tired of hearing all offseason about the transfer portal and why didn't you go get other guys? I mean, if I'm Dabo, I'm using that in the locker room every day. Granted, they play Georgia in the opener, but their schedule isn't too bad after that. So there is a lot of value in Clemson. I still like Florida State. I know they lost 10 guys to the NFL draft. I know that there's a challenge there. They play 2 games in the ACC right off the bat, but I'm going to trust Mike Norvell and the talent that they have coming back. About Miami, Craig, I'm kind of with you. I'll believe it when I see it. I understand the hype. Their schedule's only one ranked team on the schedule, but they got to go do it on the field, and that's what they haven't done in recent seasons.
Yeah, who am I know Cam Ward's a quarterback. Who am I missing? Who was the quarterback they got from Houston a couple of years ago? I forget his name. I forget who it was. He was supposed to be fan.
I'm drawing a blank too. I know who you're talking about, but obviously that hype always comes with the quarterback or an addition. Right. Now, one thing, they did get Damian Martinez from Oregon State, and I think that's going to add to their running game. They do have NFL talent. I like NC State a little more, though. I mentioned Grayson McCall earlier. They've got a lot on both sides of the ball. They've got a favorable schedule. They're always good for 9 wins. It's just pushing to get that 10th one that Dave Doran hasn't been able to do.
Yeah. No, I think in the end it's fun to hype up these teams, but I mean, there's a reason why coaches are not extended and going into like their last year or second to last year. I'm always wary of that going into the final season for a coach. All right, Bill, great stuff. I believe we'll catch up with you later in the week. We'll get some picks. We'll see if Delaware State can actually get to Hawaii. Are they going to play that game? I don't know. Hopefully so, because we can't afford to take a game off the schedule. There's only a handful of them this week. Thanks again for coming on. Derek King at the buzzer. That was the quarterback they got. So thanks for having me as always. That's right. Yeah, that was in Miami. That was a huge ad for them, and then nothing happened. Tyler Van Dyke ended up taking over, and then Van Dyke ended up transferring. I don't, not buying it. And I live in South Florida. I've lived in South Florida for 40-something years. All right, we'll be back with more NewsWire right after the break. Is the sound off? Don't go away.
These preseason games often just come down to a team will get inside the 5-yard line and they go for it. Like nobody's ever, like in the real world, the Falcons would have kicked the field goal.
And hit this thing right down to the middle. We talk about these games being close, decided, maybe a tie. Like that's the whole thing. You talked about it, Merrill. These lines are moving like not just 1 or 2 points. Like this is significant stuff.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
We looked borderline unprepared the end of the game. We didn't know how to match up. We didn't know how to switch that at half court. And when Gabby Williams got the ball, hit that long 3 to funnel her to the basket and keep that is on the staff, but it's also in the fact that we did not think we were in that or going to be in that situation.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Hey, let's say it comes down for Matt Kuchar in the FedEx Cup ball. Let's say he doesn't make a cut, and it comes down to one shot. And that's a good point. And he keeps his card for the top 125 because he did make the jump from, I think it was 113 to 103. So he made a 10-spot jump. So he's got, 17, or let's see, that was not good math. He's got about 20.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
It feels like everybody's running to Houston, and that worries me a lot. The expectations for this Texans team, given where they were a couple of years ago, is kind of scary, is it not?
I was at least looking for a number. I think the best one I found was plus 850. And then Super Bowl-wise, I think it was 16-1. I think if they make it, they would probably be the favorites.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. Time to touch on some college football, some pro football as well. It all begins coming up this Saturday. Ben has a preview of one team in college football, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what Aaron Rodgers thinks about practice. Yes, practice. Time for the sound off. Well, you learn something new every day, and I follow college football very closely and follow everything that happens in the game, but living in South Florida, being part of the SEC or the ACC, I had never known that there was this very prestigious honor given to one player on the defensive side of the ball for Ohio State University. It's called the Block O jersey. Never knew this before. How about that? Seen Ohio State play in person before. Never knew that this existed. But anyway, it's a really big deal. And this year, the player that was given the Block O jersey, essentially like a captain of the defense jersey, his name is Cody Simon, one of the best defensive players in the country. And Simon talked about getting that award, getting that honor, and also following in the footsteps of a lot of other great Buckeyes of past.
It really means everything about, coming to Ohio State. Since I've been here, I've seen all the other Block O award winners, and, you really try to emulate and see what made those guys so great, such great leaders and such great people, whether it's like Cam Babb or Jonathan Cooper. I really try to model myself after those kind of leaders and really try to be, take parts of them and be kind of like them and try to take my own way of being a leader. And I'm just thankful that my teammates and my coaches, have noticed that and really appreciated my kind of leadership. A lot of hard work, a lot of effort, and a lot of, being around my teammates and a lot of struggle, a lot of pain, and, a lot of that coming to, kind of one moment of, like achieving something that you kind of dreamed of doing your whole life. It got pretty emotional, but I was super thankful. I'm super thankful for my teammates and all my coaches.
Did I mention that college football begins this Saturday? Not for Ohio State. They play the following week. All right, well, if the National Football League decides to add another game to the NFL schedule, what that's going to mean more of is more of what you're seeing right now. Less preseason games, but more joint practices of two different teams. Now, this is not something unusual. This has happened for years, but it used to be in the past they'd play 4 preseason games, and usually every team would play against one other team in a joint practice leading up to the preseason. But now that there's one less game, we're seeing more joint practices with all of these teams playing against each other. And guess who does not like the idea? I'll give you one guess. Oh, you got it. That's right. It's the quarterback of the New York Jets, Aaron Rodgers.
But no, I stand by what I said. Even these joint practices, there's a fear among all the staffs on, like, how much can we show? What should we hold back? What are we actually going to run for this session? It's a who do you know coaching business. So everybody talks to each other, and if somebody doesn't like somebody, somebody has a friend on the Niners staff, maybe they're going to tell them something about something that we run. I think that's the fear, and probably on their side too. I just know with Carolina, it wasn't like they did a whole lot. So how much work did we actually get out of that? I think it's good for going against somebody else, but is it actually, making you better than practicing against your own team? I think it's debatable.
All right. Well, we'll debate it at another time. No debate. The Florida Gators have the toughest schedule in college football. Here's a preview with Ben Stevens.
Nobody has a harder schedule than the Florida Gators in the 2024 college football season. Florida plays the most ranked opponents in the AP Top 25 in that preseason poll entering 2024. 8 ranked foes on the slate for Billy Napier in the Gators this season. A very difficult task for UF that includes a final 5-game stretch that you would not wish on your worst enemy or your most bitter rival. Number 1, Georgia. Number 13, LSU. Number 4, Texas. Number 6, Ole Miss. And number 10, Florida State in 5 consecutive weeks. Florida's test this year in 2024 is going to be difficult, but if the Gators can prevail, maybe a brighter 2025 is on the horizon. Craig, back to you. Good luck to your Gators.
Yeah, Ben is sticking it to me right here at the end of the sound off. I got it. Yes, that's right. I graduated from the University of Florida, covered the Gators in media, attended all the games for many years. Been a tough go of it the last couple of years. We'll see. Usually pretty optimistic about the Gators, but as I don't really know what to expect this year, I'm going to hold that optimism back just a bit. Coming up next, optimism for our next guest, Pat Evans of Legal Sports Report. We'll dive into some hot topics next.
These preseason games often just come down to a team will get inside the 5-yard line and they go for it. Like nobody's ever, like in the real world, the Falcons would have kicked the field goal.
And hit this thing right down to the middle. We talk about these games being close, decided, maybe a tie. Like that's the whole thing. You talked about it, Merrill. These lines are moving like not just 1 or 2 points. Like this is significant stuff.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
We looked borderline unprepared to end of the game. We didn't know how to match up. We didn't know how to switch that at half court. And when Gabby Williams got the ball, hit that long three to funnel her to the basket to keep that is on the staff, but it's also in the fact that we did not think we were in that or going to be in that situation.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Hey, let's say it comes down for Matt Kuchar in the FedEx Cup ball. Let's say he doesn't make a cut, and it comes down to one shot. And
that's a good point.
And he keeps his card for the top 125 because he did make the jump from, I think it was 113 to 103. So he made a 10-spot jump. So he's got, 17, or let's see, that was not good math. He's got about 20.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
It feels like everybody's running to Houston, and that worries me a lot. The expectations for this Texans team, given where they were a couple of years ago, is kind of scary, is it not?
I was at least looking for a number. I think the best one I found was plus 850. And then Super Bowl-wise, I think it was 16-1. I think if they make it, they would probably be the favorites.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We're going to give Pat Evans a double dose for you guys over the next couple of days. Pat is all calm and nice. We're going to talk about sports betting stories around the country. He's going to come back next week, and then Michigan State opens up, and that is when Pat starts getting nervous on the show, and it's hard for him to focus. But, Pat, you still got a little time here. I believe you have 10 days, maybe 10 days until the Spartans open up. So you're handling things okay?
Yeah, I'm doing okay for now. It's a little worrisome coming off of last year, which was not great, but we had a lot of turmoil, if you all remember what happened. So it can't be worse than last year's with the way I'm looking at it. And for you, you've got a really tough schedule, so it's probably bad. But for you, I'd be looking forward to Florida basketball, which apparently has a 7'9" freshman, which I learned today, and he's a very large man at 7'9", of course, but he's not real thin like you see a lot of young, tall teenagers. So that's going to be fun for you, I think, come this winter.
Listen, we got. If you could get me to November at this point with the Gators football, I mean, come on, Pat. I got a long way to go until we get to that point, but fair enough. All right, let's get started here. Missouri, one of the states we're keeping an eye on as far as getting sports betting going. Seems like the sports betting operators are also jumping on board. What's the latest with DraftKings and their attempt to help out Missouri here a little bit?
Yeah, so just a little bit of history. If you don't tune into the show all the time when I just speak about Missouri ad nauseum for the last 3 years and how much they've struggled, they've had a couple legislative pushes that have gotten over the hump in the House that have been supported by the casinos in the state, the sports books in the state, the sports teams in the states, particularly the St. Louis Cardinals. And then after the latest failure, which the House didn't even send to the Senate because there's a single senator over there saying, I don't want sports betting unless it's connected to video lottery terminals, which are those slot machines you see in gas stations and the like. And in Missouri, there's a certain, rule that basically a single lawmaker can kill a piece of legislation. Finally, the stakeholders got fed up and they said, listen, we're just going to put this to the people. And so beginning last fall, there was a big ballot push. They needed 170,000 signatures to put it on the ballot. They got 370,000, turned it in early. It was verified just last week to be on the ballot in November. Up until last week or through the ballot signature gathering push, we've had about $6.5 million donated from both FanDuel and DraftKings. So, the big sports books are saying, hey, we want this to happen. But then there was a couple months of nothing happening, and I think that was just because you're waiting to put it on the ballot. Well, now that it's on the ballot, DraftKings on Friday, according to the Missouri Ethics Commission, donated a $3.5 million check to the Winning for Missouri Education. That's called that because the sports betting funds in this proposal would go to fund Missouri's teachers, which are some of the most underpaid in the country. And, I talked to the spokesperson for Winning for Missouri Education, which everybody pointed me to, whether it was DraftKings or the Sports Betting Association. They all pointed me to Jack Cardetti, who said, over the next 11 weeks, we're just going to use the money that we get. We're going to use the time to educate voters, to get this on everybody's minds and show that why it's important. Now, when we get to November, it's going to be close. I don't think there's any doubting that. We've had a lot of polling over the last 2 years. Earlier this year, we've seen, 60% saying they're supportive of sports betting funds going to education. That was a couple polls. More recently, we've seen a poll that was really split, and it was about 40% said they were for it. 30% said they weren't, and then the remaining were kind of undecided. So it's going to be a close vote. It's going to be really interesting to watch. I'd heard rumors that there would be some opposition from some significant parties. Haven't heard anything more. Of course, that would be filed in, at the governmental level. So I'm watching that closely to see if there is any big parties that pop up in opposition. But so far, so good. And yeah, it's going to be just a really close race. And you have to wonder, after having 2 close calls in the legislature this year, kind of just a wash, and that single senator being out of the Senate next year, what happens if it fails? And that's going to be something even more interesting post-November, is if it doesn't get passed by voters, what does the legislator think? Do they think, well, the people don't really want this? Do we still take this up as a big issue? And so there's a lot of things riding on this ballot proposal in November, and we'll see. And it's huge for the industry because there's no North American, well, I guess Alberta, which we'll talk about tomorrow probably, but there's no U.S. market on the horizon for U.S. sports books. So this is a huge reason why DraftKings and FanDuel are putting a lot of money in Missouri.
Yeah, no, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, and somebody asked me, like, when is the next big sports betting push? And Pat, we talk about it every day here, but it's like, if it's not California and if it's not Texas, I mean, where is the word big? Like, there is no big. Like, so one of these states has got to get done over the next 6 to 8 months. All right, so new commentary here and a memo from the American Gaming Association. The word sweepstakes being brought up quite a bit. So a lot of this is portending to casino gambling, I'm guessing. Tell us more about what the American Gaming Association had to say.
Yeah, so this comes about the same time as, this summer we saw at a couple conferences, the North American Gaming Regulators Association and the National Council of Legislators from Gaming States. Both conferences had panels that kind of discussed these operators. They're, finding their cracks in regulatory frameworks to offer these games to, the public. And you can gamble for free. I guess it's not gambling then. You're playing for free. You're earning coins. And it's a ecosystem where then you can exchange coins for money, whether it's time played or for real money or however, and you can withdraw actual money. And so the AGA has come out with a memo, and they're just asking regulators across the country to kind of take a closer look and see if it fits within their framework or adjust the framework or however they want to do it to just ensure that the regulated gaming industry in the U.S. is working. And then the AGA is, pretty wide open in how they address it. It's an interesting story. If you want to go look at our story at Legal Sports Report, we link to the letter. It explains it in great depth of what they're asking. It cites in my state of Michigan, there was a cease and desist of several sweepstakes operators. They have decided to pull out, or they did decide to pull out, and they're no longer operating. So it's just it'll be an interesting kind of couple of months to see if regulators do kind of take action, whether it's C&Ds or changing regulations to kind of, allow this or what happens. It'll be certainly an interesting time.
All right. Well, Pat, before you go, and you'll be back tomorrow, is there any update on sports betting online in Nebraska? We've been following this now. I thought that something was supposed to come down last Friday, but I didn't see anything.
Yeah, so Nebraska, it was an interesting special session. They spent a lot of time filibustering, talking through one bill. Of course, that was property tax reduction, which was at the governor's request for this special session. In it, there was the potential that a sports betting bill to expand online, they have retail sports betting in Nebraska, would get through to help kind of supplement property tax losses. It did not get brought up to the floor. They adjourned sine die yesterday, and so it's not getting done. Now, that said, Governor Pillen does say there's a sports betting priority bill. A priority bill means it's going to be kind of talked about in the January session. However, it'll still probably be an amendment, which means it will not be able to be on the ballot until 2026. So online sports betting in Nebraska will still be a few years away.
All right, fair enough. Pat, great stuff as always. We'll see you back here tomorrow and get some more updates around the country. Thanks again for coming on NewsWire.
Thanks, Craig.
All right, we've got Simon Applebaum coming up next. It's time for us to dive into what the upcoming NFL season will look like and how it may affect your wallet. More on that next after the break.
These preseason games often just come down to a team will get inside the 5-yard line and they go for it. Like nobody's ever, like in the real world, the Falcons would have kicked the field goal.
And hit this thing right down the middle. We talk about these games being close, decided, maybe a tie. Like that's the whole thing. You talked about it, Merrill. These lines are moving like not just 1 or 2 points. Like this is significant stuff.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
We looked borderline unprepared at the end of the game. We didn't know how to match up. We didn't know how to switch that at half court. And when Gabby Williams got the ball, hit that long three to funnel her to the basket to keep that is on the staff, but it's also in the fact that we did not think we were in that or going to be in that situation.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Hey, let's say it comes down for Matt Kuchar in the FedEx Cup ball. Let's say he doesn't make a cut, and it comes down to one shot. And
that's a good point.
And he keeps his card for the top 125 because he did make the jump from, I think it was 113 to 103. So he made a 10-spot jump. So he's got, 17, or let's see, that was not good math. He's got about 20.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
It feels like everybody's running to Houston, and that worries me a lot. The expectations for this Texans team, given where they were a couple of years ago, is kind of scary, is it not?
I was at least looking for a number. I think the best one I found was plus 850. And then Super Bowl-wise, I think it was 16-1. I think if they make it, they would probably be the favorites.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. Simon Applebaum is with us from the podcast. Tomorrow will be televised. We'll dive into the latest in the National Football League, where you can watch some of these games for week one. And by the way, they're all over the place. Simon, great to have you back here on NewsWire as we dive in.
Yeah, it's great to be back, Craig. And by the way, one of the things people may not know is at ESPN, there's going to be a big move in terms of the pregame show, Sunday NFL Countdown. Mike Greenberg from Get Up and coverage of the NFL Draft, and Greeny on ESPN Radio. He is the new host, replacing Sam Ponder, who was let go last week, along with college football analyst Robert Griffin III. By the way, the rest of the Countdown crew will be on hand, including Aaron, who is their sports betting analyst. So basically, it's just the top, and we'll see how Greenberg does. He is the fourth host of NFL Countdown, which, by the way, this year marks its 40th year on ESPN.
Yeah, let's dive into, since you brought it up, let's dive into this more, Simon, because again, it is my opinion. Now, again, this takes nothing away from what we're doing here at SportsGrid. We're doing a completely different show. We're talking about sports betting, so we're unique in that way. But Simon, I guess I would ask you, because you've, certainly been watching like I've been watching. I mean, those shows to me 20, 30 years ago were must-watch shows because we did not have social media. We didn't know who was playing and who was not, and to have odds updated. Sports betting was not legal at the time. They felt a lot stronger than they do now. That's not to say that they don't do a good job. I'm not alluding to that, Simon, but are they as important as they used to be? Because I can't honestly tell you the last time I've even watched a pregame show.
They're certainly longer than they used to be. Remember the days when, for example, CBS with the NFL Today or NBC with NFL Live was a half hour. Now they're both hour-long shows. In the case of Fox with NFL Sunday, you have the NFL Kickoff Show at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Then you have Fox NFL Sunday at noon on Sundays. I think that they have changed with the times. In the case of NFL Countdown, one of the big things they do is the live remotes. Remember, that was pioneered by Brent Musburger in the NFL Today back in the mid-'70s. You are looking live. But in terms of what makes Countdown great is the fact that they have been doing this whole idea of having correspondents at every major NFL game. You get the live look, you get the live update, and I think that's the key to these games, is to do more live stuff and now to do more focus, in the case of at least of ESPN and some of the other networks, CBS and Fox, on sports betting and how the games are going to go.
And look, from an advertising point of view, to me, I mean, advertisers get in at a cheaper price than they would for the actual games, and so it does make some sense. But for me, again, social media is kind of telling me everything that's going on. The actual game's different story. Speaking of which, Simon, I don't know about this one. If this indeed proves to be true, I was a Sunday NFL ticket subscriber for many, many years. Life changes. I probably had it, I would say, 15 straight years, 16 straight years. When it moved off DirecTV, I said, you know what, let me just, DirecTV got the red zone. I'm like, let me just try this and see how this works for me this year. And I loved it. I'm like, okay, so that's it. Farewell, Sunday NFL ticket. Are people going to say farewell at this point? I mean, $600-700, Simon, I get it if you own a bar or if you're having people over every Sunday to watch the games. But, I mean, when does it get to be at a point where this is not affordable at all?
Well, if you own an iPod or an iPad or an iPhone, and I'm not sure about Apple TV set-top boxes, you are going to pay a lot more. We're talking about $300 more for NFL Sunday ticket through YouTube, whether you get NFL Red Zone or not. It's $300 either way. Why? Because, as a lot of iPhone apps know, or the people who do iPhone apps or iPod apps or iPad apps know, when you get on Apple, you have to give them 30% of your revenue. Apple TV gets an automatic 30% cut of the revenue from their suppliers, their app makers, or app developers, for whatever app they do. And the same thing with YouTube. So in order for YouTube to continue to make some money out of this and fulfill the whole 30% turnover of the revenue to Apple, not the NFL, Apple, that's why they're raising the price. I think it's going to provoke some problems. We got to remember, this is just for Apple iPhone, iPod, iPad users. We're not sure yet about Apple TV set-top boxes or Apple TV Plus. So I think if there are enough Apple subscribers who say, no way, I'm going to afford this, we may have another lawsuit possibility. We'll see.
Yeah. And the other thing is, look, they haven't unveiled it all. The rollout is not official. We're just hearing rumors of sort of this. The one thing that I did see, which I think does make sense, because the fantasy community, Simon, look, the betting community, of course, is going to be on this. But the fantasy community, they're the first ones because gambling was not legal. So they were buying Sunday NFL ticket, and at least they're now incorporating, what, if I'm not mistaken, Simon, a way that you can enter your team in fantasy, and it immediately takes you to not just their highlights, which they've always had, but like live look-ins when there's a possibility of they score. So, I mean, nice little wrinkles, but I guess you have to ask yourself the question, is it worth a few $100s extra for that?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. It is going to be tough. And going back, by the way, to the pregame shows, I think one of the things they're going to have to do is do more betting information, to do more live look-ins, and to try to mix up the features. So it's not just like the interview with this player, maybe try to do something a little funky in order to try to get that Gen Z, Gen X, Gen Y audience.
Yeah, no, and I understand that because, again, times have changed, and those nice, really feel-good stories before games that we see for Thanksgiving, that's fantastic, and for Christmas, holidays, Hanukkah, but not for September. Those don't work. All right, the latest on this Venue Sports. 2 weeks ago it was happening. Last week it got delayed. What is this ever going to happen, this launch?
It's all going to depend on two things. One, whether Fubo TV really does pursue this antitrust suit, and they certainly have the go-ahead to do it because of what the judge did with the preliminary injunction, which came out, by the way, shortly after we were on the air. Because remember the Venue Sports head, Pete Distaw, was going to be speaking here in New York at the Pillars of Media. He declined day before, and now we know why, because of that ruling. Secondly, it's going to depend on the venue owners, ESPN with Disney, Fox, and Warner Bros. Discovery. Are they given their own individual issues that they've got in various aspects of television overall? Are they going to really try to pursue this and get Venue on the air, if not by the end of this year, sometime in 2025? We'll have to see. But it's not looking good in terms of antitrust.
Yep. Simon, great stuff. As always, great to catch up with you. We'll preview the upcoming college football Labor Day weekend with you next week. Thanks for coming on.
You're very welcome, Craig. Take care. Enjoy.
All right, Simon Applebaum. The podcast tomorrow will be televised. All right, coming up next, it's time for some last licks. We've got a new inventive way to decide where you pick in your upcoming fantasy football league. Oakland A's have mastered this idea. We'll have it for you next.
These preseason games often just come down to a team will get inside the 5-yard line and they go for it. Like nobody's ever, like in the real world, the Falcons would have kicked the field goal.
And hit this thing right down to the middle. We talked about these games being close, decided, maybe a tie. Like that's the whole thing. You talked about it, Merrill. These lines are moving like not just 1 or 2 points. Like this is significant stuff.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
We looked borderline unprepared at the end of the game. We didn't know how to match up. We didn't know how to switch that at half court. And when Gabby Williams got the ball, hit that long three to funnel her to the basket to keep that is on the staff, but it's also in the fact that we did not think we were in that or going to be in that situation.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Hey, let's say it comes down for Matt Kuchar in the FedEx Cup ball. Let's say he doesn't make a cut, and it comes down to one shot. And
That's a good point.
And he keeps his card for the top 125 because he did make the jump from, I think it was 113 to 103. So he made a 10-spot jump. So he's got, 17, or let's see, that was not good math. He's got about 20.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
It feels like everybody's running to Houston, and that worries me a lot. The expectations for this Texans team, given where they were a couple of years ago, is kind of scary, is it not?
I was at least looking for a number. I think the best one I found was plus 850. And then Super Bowl-wise, I think it was 16-1. I think if they make it, they would probably be the favorites.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
All right, time to wrap up the show with a little baseball talk. An interesting box score could be coming next week. We'll get to that. Also talk about a nice inventive way to maybe pick where you're picking in fantasy football. You know how your commissioner does that. Maybe a better idea here. And also, will Delaware State actually play Hawaii this weekend? I don't know. Time now for some last licks. All right, we'll begin with a game that is coming up next week between the Toronto Blue Jays and Boston Red Sox. Catcher Danny Jansen played earlier this season for the Toronto Blue Jays. He was the catcher behind the plate. But now Jansen plays for the Boston Red Sox, and as irony would have it, they did not finish a game that they have to finish coming up next week. And now Jansen has gone from the Blue Jays to the Red Sox. So it is certainly possible that next week, although not guaranteed, that Jansen could appear in a Major League box score for the first time in history for two different teams. This happened in the minor leagues. It's never happened in the major leagues before. Now, again, Jansen would have to catch in this game, and it's not a full game as well. But the bottom line is that if indeed he does play next week, he could play for two teams at two different times in the same game. That's what the box score could appear like, and we'll see if it ends up happening when they resume their suspended game next week. Meanwhile, fantasy football is not just for you and me. It's also in clubhouses in Major League Baseball all across the country. I've seen this play out before, and the Oakland A's have to decide who gets the first pick. And they're not putting names in a hat or doing any of the stuff that we do, normally randomize things on the computer or your phone. The Oakland A's had a contest yesterday. We could call it closest to the pin. All of the players got in the outfield and decided we're going to set something down in the outfield for batting practice, and you're going to have to take a baseball and get it closest to the target, and that's how we're going to determine picks 1 through 12. What a great idea. I mean, everyone just crushes the A's all season long. Meanwhile, I think all baseball teams are going to follow suit with this. And by the way, you would be super surprised how intense these fantasy baseball leagues are. I guess the story came out a couple of years ago with Jock Peterson and Tommy Pham being in the same league and all that, and them getting into it. But this was a great idea yesterday, and Oakland ended up pulling it off. I did not see, by the way, who got the first pick overall. But again, at least this is a new, inventive way to do it. Got to get creative with fantasy football. Can't just, my league, we just randomized it the other day. I found out I have the third pick overall in my upcoming draft. Been in the same league for 35 years. It's kind of crazy. All right, big game this weekend between Delaware State and Hawaii. That's the handful of games this weekend for week 0. So I guess when you play at the University of Hawaii, this is not the kind of thing where you can, especially if you're not on the West Coast, you can't just go over the day of the game or the day before the game. You have to go over several days before the game. So Delaware State's football team, they're 38.5-point favorites going into this game on the island. And they decided that they're going to go out to Hawaii several days early, which would be yesterday, Tuesday. And the game is Saturday. Makes sense. Except for they didn't make it. Didn't make the flight. Didn't make the trip, and team representatives now say that they're planning on going today. Now, we haven't gotten the latest update on that, but Delaware State has got to get their butts to Hawaii by tomorrow. I mean, this game is Saturday, and it's 8 or 9 hours behind. Get going here. We have to have this game played out. 38.5-point favorites at Hawaii. Delaware State. Line, by the way, did not move. I assume they're going to make it on time. We've made it on time to the end of the show. That'll do it for us. Thanks again to our guest contributors of the program today. Simon Applebaum of the podcast Tomorrow Will Be Televised. Pat Evans of Legal Sports Report. And also Bill Bender of Sporting News. Coming up, we've got the early line followed by Pharrell Coast to Coast at 3 o'clock Eastern. We've got Kaplan and crew, and then Pharrell Coast to Coast at 3 o'clock Eastern. And don't forget to catch all our programming tonight, including Gabe on Sports Rage. Thanks again to our director, Luke, and for my producer, Frank. I'm Craig Mish. That'll do it for this edition of the show. We'll be back with you tomorrow for our next program that is 11 a.m. Eastern, exclusively here on SportsGrid. We'll get you more picks for college football and also get you ready for the final week of the NFL preseason games. A couple of games tomorrow as well. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your night. See you back here, same time, same place. Next edition of NewsWire every day, 11 a.m. Eastern, right here on SportsGrid. Enjoy the rest of your night. Hope you have some good plays, good picks, and everything else. See you then.